More discussion about it. Gail?
Okay. Hard street closures. It says see attachments number 4 and 5. So I look at attachments 4 and 5. How long? They can't even water the grass or clean the bathrooms. They're gonna keep these planters looking good. Okay, here we go. No, exclamation point.
Oh, let me just retract real quick. Bike racks make amazing bollards.
Okay, so my comment is, it's really beautiful that we want, I'm not opposed to street closures, but as you say, to me, I'm hearing that there's money being put on the table by the city, and we need to exploit that. We need to, as a community, say enough is enough, that we want the money to stay here, and this is a good opportunity, I think, to demand certain amounts of funding. And if we're going to do something like that, like you said, there needs to be a set dollar that is committed by the city of LA to help maintain that.
400,000 is what they're
That, to me, that's the building of it. But what every year for 5 years are they going to use to maintain this? The other thing is that if they're going to put dollars into this, to me, I think it's that we need to also, at this point, demand monies to, if we're saying we don't want steel ballards or whatever that looks ugly, ballard, ballard, whatever, then, and it's to enhance the boardwalk, to draw the tourists and make it a better experience. Well, I know I got an email from Linda that talked about the bathrooms being atrocious and somebody freaking out, like from the Department of Tourism or wherever it was, that couldn't even go to the bathrooms because they were so disgusting. So if we're going to put money into something like this, then we need money put up by the city to maintain basic things that this boardwalk should be doing already. And the other piece
is on for discussion for the last half of this meeting, if we can get through this
okay,
discussion.
and the other piece is, I'm for this, and if we want to enhance it by inviting artists to come and do it, I'm opposed to some competitive, let's have an art competition. To me, this is a community, and we should all be working together to do the enhancement.
In favor, just same thing I just said, though, just taking into consideration what the communities of each street need to do business as usual.
Agreed.
I think you need better signage, not more bollards.
Better what?
Signage.
Bollard signs.
I mean, you go down Main Street or Ocean, Santa Monica, and you say, no beach entrance, and it's clear there, you don't go down the street if you want to get to a parking lot by the beach. Why didn't LA is direct?
I'm interested in exploring this. I think the bike racks and artwork could be pretty beneficial, but I agree if businesses need access, I don't know if this would cut off deliveries or how they would deal with that. And also just the maintenance, I'm not really for if they are putting in greenery that's not going to be maintained or anything that's going to rust, but I think bike racks and artwork. The other thing to note is it does seem that this the hard street closure section includes cutting off the parking lot from vendors that are currently there, which seems to be
At Sunset.
in there. Yeah.
It's the private parking lot at Sunset
Right.
specifically is what it's all it's talking about.
Yeah. And that of the photos that reflect the kind of pavement and all of that, and none of that is included in any of these cost estimates. So the way it looks in these photos is not necessarily.
The photo is mine.
Yeah, not that anyone's. No, before that.
The
Figures
photo
4
is
and
mine,
5.
the one of Sunset.
Right, this is an addition. So the attachment 5 has this kind of community seating with the pavement and all. Just that we realize that these kinds of changes to the pavement or beautification of the streetscape is not included in the assessment.
What's not included in it? Number 5.
Changing the bridge, like.
Picture number 5 with the sort of half round bench seating.
Yeah, it's kind of like visual marking off of where the boardwalk ends. That's not included in the report.
There are many scalable options that could impact costs, from creating pedestrian plazas to simply adding a bollard or two. Some street locations have existing bollards. If a fixed decorative bollard is selected and used to both replace existing bollards and install where none exist, the estimated cost of 18 street locations is $400,000. If some of the existing bollards are left in place, there could be a significant reduction in this cost estimate. Furthermore, these costs do not include structural changes to the pavement that include or beautification of the streetscape, such as pavers or other materials. That would require additional time to design to determine accurate estimates.
So I was just noting that, because I think the photos show that it kind of is visually marked out. And then one final quick thing, the use of I know we're referring to the way that they've presented here, but I do worry if what we're really interested in are bike racks and some planters, this hard street closures. If we just accept hard street closures, that makes me feel a little nervous about this thing. If we can be more specific.
First of all, I think that hard closures on some of the streets listed, I'm not really opposed to. People should not be driving past it, so there's no real hindrance other than the actual physical barrier to them being located at some of these spots, because the only inconvenience is that they're going to block vehicles, which is sort of an advantage in our discussion here. I think if we do planters, they should definitely be native plants because they're appropriate for the climate. They last a little bit longer without the attention that they're probably not going to get. That's one consideration. I also think maybe some trees should be considered as well. It will offer a very sort of nice boundary and help beautify the boardwalk as well a little bit. Not necessarily just palm trees scattered, but a little bit of foliage would be nice at some of those streets. And then, of course, bike racks and maybe water fountains and things like that. I think it's very important. So, I am absolutely categorically against a single bollard being placed anywhere. I do not think we need to put a steel post or a concrete post or any post of any sort anywhere. If we're going to put anything to block vehicles, we should do it with a little bit of sensibility, and we should put something functional in that serves the exact same purpose, is probably not any more expensive, and does the exact same job. So as far as use of the word bollard in this text, I'm absolutely against bollards. I think signs are incredibly important. I think what we need to do is we need to place the signs basically indicating the end of the street, or that there's no more access at Speedway, and include a sign that says delivery access only up to the physical barrier that may be at the end of that particular street at Oceanfront Walk. So there are basically two signs. There's one that's the ultimate no vehicles past this. Other, of course, then emergency vehicles, and then of course the maintenance vehicles that need to get onto the boardwalk to cut the trees, to replace the light bulbs, to clean the bathrooms, etc. But they know that, of course, they have access to the boardwalk to do their particular functions. So signs on Oceanfront Walk at the streets saying basically nobody passes this, and then signs at Speedway saying no cars, no more access, do not turn here, do not drive here, no access, and then paint the curb yellow, just past the sign so the delivery trucks know that they can go over there to make the deliveries down the street. I can give a list of all the streets that should be closed, or that I think that should be closed, and those that should absolutely not be closed. At those particular streets that should be closed, I think bike racks are not just a good idea, they're a great idea. Trees are maybe a good idea, it depends. I mean, we have to look a little bit more into the consequences of them growing a little bit out of proportion, not being maintained. And then water fountains and things of the sort, I think would also be nice. Even though that brings up another maintenance issue. One of the things that I think we need to kind of try to get away from, if we can, and we need to take a little bit more initiative and come up with specific solutions, but I think always trying to push the decisions or the specific words to another meeting, or looking further into things. We have a very specific report. I think we need to really try to hash it out, come up with specific recommendations that we make to the Venice Neighborhood Council Board. The board can vote on them, send them to CD11, and say, look, these are the exact recommendations that are made by this board, street for street, what we recommend is being placed, what we recommend is not being placed, and then we don't leave the back door open, or really the back door should be open, but at least not the front door on this meeting, so that as, of course, we come across new opportunities and things that are functional, we can change them. If we do things and we realize it wasn't the best idea, we can change them, but that we also do make some decisions.
We're finishing our board discussion, and then we'll go back to public comment. Joseph? Or do you have something else to say?
Well, and so I'd like to make a motion, but I'll let them finish before I make a motion, so I can write it down first.
And in speaking to the motion at hand, this specific thing, street sign, I think we follow next. I would be in favor of this motion with these recommendations. So,
Say again, please.
I'm in favor of this one, with the hard street closures and the things that are.
I think we've spoken that we don't think this is a real big problem because we voted down the other two things, I think, it's, as they said, we're looking for, in terms of hard street closures, a lot of them already exist, they should be done well. I think they should be done creatively, that's great. So I'm in favor of that. It needs to be kind of what Linda was saying, and what you were saying. I think if we vote no on everything, it gives comfort to the city to say, okay, we don't have to do anything, because the neighborhood didn't want it. So, we need to vote on something that's positive to safety. I think this is okay.
Thanks, Carl.
I think it's okay to do. I think that we also need to take the input of the actual businesses on those streets that are getting closed. If you're going to do it on Windward, there's a lot of different, or on Westminster, you've got a lot of different streets. They've got a lot of shops right there, and you need to take that into consideration. There's a number of ways to do it that would work for the locals, maybe some concrete furniture that would block and serve as seating area for the guests for that, right, for the little restaurants and right there. And then on other streets, you might want to do something completely different. But you have to really take into consideration what each street would, what would be best for each street.
For what?
What would be best for each street?
Right. So let me, let's just digress for a second and look at this map, because I think we haven't discussed it. And if we look at the page, it shows the map. This shows what is recommended by Rec and Parks in conjunction with all the other agencies. That shows Navy, major access, ozone, Dudley minor access, whatever that means.
Is already
So I guess this is existing?
Yeah.
Maybe this is existing. Brooks, and Brooks shows major access or emergency access, but minor access, but it's not. It now has fixed steel posts, one of those bollards. Breeze has fixed steel posts. Wavecrest, Clubhouse, Westminster, minor access. Horizon closed, Market closed, Windward minor, 17th major, 18th minor, 19th closed, 20th closed, South Venice major, North Venice major, 23rd, 24th, 25th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th through 30th closed, and Washington open.
Minor is the gates.
Pardon me?
The gates, I think, was minor.
Right. So I think one of the themes that I'm hearing here is that what works for one street may or may not work for another. That every street is very unique. Many streets have, there's residences on Oceanfront Walk that have their driveway, which is right off of Speedway, just less than 100 feet from Oceanfront Walk. And so I would like to see a motion that would include a study that is street by street, and what is best and what is unique and what makes sense for each street. And I would also like to pose the question to Savannah, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but are you able to say what LAFD requires as access to the boardwalk? Because all I know is roads. They just, obviously, they always, because it's the widest street, they can make that turn, right? But if you had to close off every street possible, what streets would be required to be left open for emergency vehicle access?
I'm writing a motion, and I have that list in for motion.
Okay, awesome. You want to? So then we've got two motions now. Hang on one second. We got a motion.
If you want to start over. I'll do it online.
You want to make your motion?
If you give me 15 more seconds so I can write the list.
Okay.
You want to just withdraw mine, or are you amending mine, Savannah?
It's very different.
Then I would like to withdraw my motion. And someone, the second, has to withdraw the second.
Then we want a second, Linda's withdrawal. What's the second withdrawal? Okay, we want a public comment while we're working on this motion. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're just looking at the picture there, number 4, and the way it can affect the hard street closure in that situation is with functional obstruction, which is of course these big planters that no one's going to water, dead plants in them. But on the sides, they've got the bike racks. Now, what they don't have in the picture is the bikes. So basically, you also got to think about, ADA, disabilities access, people with wheelchairs, stuff like that. And I don't see how you can get a wheelchair between there at present, much less with a couple bikes there.
Couldn't.
No, you couldn't. And of course, if there was a panic on the boardwalk, people would be trying to escape through that route. Maybe they couldn't see over people's heads to see that there are these obstructions. So it could really become a bad situation. I think the idea of signage makes a lot of sense, because that's the real problem, which is people make a wrong turn now they're on the boardwalk. But to have functional blocks like this, particularly when you're in a crowd, you can't see that coming up. I don't know if you've ever had your head turned and walked into one of these things, but it's not fun. And it could actually be a liability. And of course, there's the disability access issue, which is that some people need more space.
Thanks, guys.
As regarding the signs, I agree with everyone's comment. Low-line signage that says "Welcome to Oceanfront Walk" makes a lot more sense than "dead end" or "stop." So in each of these hard street closures should be consistent signing that says "Welcome to Venice Beach." You can put the mayor's name on it, he'll be happy. You put the proponent's name on it, he can be happy. And then list all the reasons why you can't continue with the car or whatever the access issues are. And that's how you do this. It's consistent for all the closure streets. But signage is the key.
Right. And the signage could say beach parking that way with an arrow, so that people don't go straight ahead.
Signage is the next item
Yes.
for discussion, right?
Yeah,
You have to do
this, again, we're talking about a lot of time, especially if you study street by street, we're talking about a lot of time and a lot of money for a situation that doesn't need fixing like this. This is a huge expenditure for a small teeny problem that was a one-time shot. Like we gotta remember what we're talking about here. Yeah, it's pretty, it's nice, we could have seating for everybody, we could have lockers for people to put their stuff so they won't be having bombs and the thing on the street. You could have, really utilize the space and have a check-in center for homeless people, or more bathrooms than 16 for 16 million visitors. But to have, why are we doing this? Why? Is there a real reason for any of these things? I think signage could be easy. We know we can do signage cheaply. Like you said, we can make them nice and pretty. Doesn't have to say dead end. You can say this is where the pedestrians start.
Linda?
Yeah, I want to follow up on the theme of signage. I think nice signage, what's gone up in the heat of the moment is really ugly and huge. And my friend that lives on 26 in Oceanfront Walk, where the boardwalk is this wide, has 3 giant signs, dead end, no access. It would be great to have signs saying, welcome to Venice, pedestrians only, or welcome to the famous Venice boardwalk, pedestrians only, or some nice welcoming sign. I think
Let's make a motion for that.
Yeah.
Let's make this, answer your motion, Mr. Vaughn.
Make my motion, okay. The Special Joint Committee,
Nice and loud, please.
the 3, recommends that the VNC not support the use of steel or concrete bollards on Oceanfront Walk and support the use of bike racks, trees, planters with Southern California native plants, street traffic and pedestrians only signs no more than 5 feet apart. This is a comma, so this is for everything. No more than 5 feet apart, no less than 3 feet apart, on all streets with access to Oceanfront Walk, with the exception of Navy Road, Brooks, Market, 18th, Venice Boulevard, and Washington Boulevard.
Can you read it again?
Start where?
Beginning.
This, recommends that the VNC not support the use of steel or concrete bollards on Oceanfront Walk and support the use of bike racks, trees, planters with native plants, street traffic and pedestrians only signs, comma, all no more than 5 feet apart and no less than 3 feet apart on all streets with access to Oceanfront Walk, with the exception of Navy, Rose, Brooks, Market, 18th Street, or actually it's Avenue, Venice Boulevard, north and south, and Washington Boulevard.
I'll second that motion, and can I make it friendly and
Sure.
just add the word welcoming signs in front of the word signage, welcoming
Street
signage,
traffic.
or attractive signage.
So we'll do planters with California natives, street traffic, comma, pedestrians only, comma, and welcoming signs?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So we've got a motion, we've got a second. Public comment first. Go ahead, please.
We don't need all that. Period.
I'd second that. There's other solutions farther down, like, putting just signs. If you tell them this is going to be okay, they're going to come back with a plan that may or may not be the streets you suggest. This is an advisory, a committee to an advisory body. So to the extent that we advise, I think we should advise clearly, which is signs are plenty. And, you know, there's also, you can put little raised dots, right, on the ground, so that people hear it when they drive off the spot. You know, that's like a little less, I mean, that's still dangerous because people can trip on them, but the reality is that it's more likely to, you know, avoid hurting people and still, you know, tell people that they're on the wrong spot. But if you've got a big sign saying, you know, no through traffic, pedestrian traffic only at this point, whatever.
I support the motion. I think that, you know, when the city offers us money, regardless of what it's for, if it improves the area, let's go for it. We need the bathrooms and all that other stuff, but, you know, they're offering us money. I like the idea. We really do need more bike lanes. You ever tried to ride your, you know, find a place for your bike down there? You know, et cetera, and art, you know, sculptures, that would just be nice. And if they give us the money, they're giving us the money. We can use that for other stuff. I realize that, but they're not offering us that.
Well, they are, with lighting and other stuff that is part of this.
Okay, so you guys, just to reiterate, we've got 45 minutes and we still have, and once we finish this assessment, then we want to get everybody else's ideas, okay? So we really want to move very quickly. So Carl, with that in mind, let's go down the road, please, and comment on the motion as it's written.
I like the motion as it's written. I will make a comment that with respect to the parking lot at Sunset, I think that it's going to be difficult to put planters along there because you do have street vendors that use every square inch of that frontage. And so you may want to consider ballards there or something, some post type treatment. And you don't want to put bike racks in front of somebody's stand. Just a thought. But your motion really addressed the issue of streets and street closures, so that little section of the boardwalk could be carved out separately.
Next. You don't have to comment if you don't want to. Okay. Joseph.
I support the motion. Next.
I support it. I would make if we really want the welcome to Venice signs, make that clear, because I think they could just put in dead-end signs with the way that it's worded. And then I don't know if leaving the exempt with those streets, leave that open for then whatever else they want to do on it. So, which I don't know if you should add that it's for.
Any other comments? Please?
Yeah, I support the no bollards. I love that part of it. The rest of it, I would just start with emphasizing signage.
I can hear the rest.
Emphasize signage and don't put it down at the end of the boardwalk, put it on Speedway. Delivery vehicles only, no public access, no beach parking. I mean, very simple.
Melissa.
I agree with Carl that we should add language but addressing the bollards on the parking lot and
Shelley.
I can't agree with it just because I think these will become toilets. You know, there's no place to go to the bathroom, they're gonna be urinated in. We don't have people to upkeep trees. If we're planting, you know, I just don't see that the resources are gonna be to maintain it, and I do think signage is really important, so I agree with that part, and I question the access for wheelchairs. So I can't agree to it. I can't agree to the signage.
Gail.
Yeah, I disagree with the motion. I find it as cluttery as the clutter. You know, as a resident, Venice is a beach. You know, I'm just an old hippie resident, and I like to see palm trees and coast. Too much clutter, and as I said, the amendment, the motion is cluttery. Yeah, it's clutter. So I've used this expression before. I guess maybe because I'm a resident, I have a checking account where I get 13 cents a year, so I'm not into investments and money. So, I say this is, I don't think, the city ain't giving us money, and I call it moral bankruptcy. I don't want their money. I don't believe it.
I think this is very exciting that we're getting down to talking about the nitty gritty, and that this is, that we're getting into the real details, because this is where the rubber meets the road. And I think that, everybody says bollards or whatever you call them, or however you pronounce it. Well, that's part of the issue of what's going on here, is that people have different ideas in their mind about what's a bollard. What a bollard is an object that prevents you from driving a vehicle over it. So a rock that exists in Westminster Dog Park, a big boulder that's sitting on the edge of the street that disallows people from ripping down the alley and driving onto the grass at Westminster Dog Park, is a bollard. Okay? So a bollard can be a rock, a bollard can be a planter, a bollard can be a steel post that goes up or down, a bollard could be a sculpture. Okay? So we have to think outside the box a little bit. This is Venice. So if the objective is that you want to direct people, you want to direct pedestrian traffic, you want to direct vehicular traffic, you want to direct bicycle traffic, you have to do that through the use of how are you going to direct people. Certainly signage is a large part of that, and I'm glad that there's lots of discussion about signage, and the signage needs to begin on Pacific, because Pacific is where people are driving down and looking down the side streets going, is this a street where I can turn down to park? And that's where there's multiple accidents on Pacific and Brooks. Every light at Pacific, you have major smash-ups because people are looking going, can I park here or not? There should be signage way on Pacific that says beach parking straight ahead, beach parking left, beach parking right, no beach parking. That's where it needs to start, is at Pacific, because that's where the majority of the flow of traffic is. And so that's where signage belongs. And then I love the idea of once you get to Speedway, that okay, now this is pedestrian. What I think I hear other people keying on is that what happens on that last block between Speedway and Oceanfront Walk many times is sort of this dead zone where the people aren't sure what's happening, and it's can be very it's a place where people collect, garbage collects, and Westminster is a really good example of that. You have Groundworks Coffee, you have a whole row of shops and places to eat on the south side of the street, and what an amazing opportunity. Everybody goes and buys their coffee, they buy their juice, they buy their little Indian food or their Mexican food, and now they're standing out there on the street going, where can I eat my food? That is a perfect place where you could have that become a little pedestrian side street. And I think it's incumbent upon the people of that particular neighborhood to say, this is what I'd like to see on our street. So I'm advocating for each street to become a unique zone, a pedestrian zone, between Speedway and Oceanfront Walk. And then we look at each one individually, and we don't just paint everything with a broad brush so that Market Street and Windward and every street all become one and the same, because they're not. Each little side street is unique as Venice is in of itself.
The next point on here talks about signs law. Maybe you should just take the part about signs out and just do a simple one recommending additional signs.
Just so you know, bollards are a real thing. That's opposed. The bollards opposed. They talk about natural destruction.
The other possibility is we could have a motion on signage, we could have a motion on bollards or immovable objects. If you don't like the word bollards and you want to call them blocks or blocks or blockades or whatever you'd like to call them, or sculptures or whatever you'd like to call them, we can come up with a word that's more palatable to people besides bollards.